Fritz, what's that number one tactica? The number one tactica, getting better at wargaming. What's the number one thing to give you the most gain, or give me the most gain with the least amount of pain? Trying to tie me down here, exploring like top 5, top 3 things you can do, but really narrowing it down to one. That's what this question is from over on my blog, and it's specifically like, Fritz, number one, playing games. Just getting in there and playing games, but playing them with an efficiency to give you some leverage. And that's what we're going to explore here. There was a time, I would describe myself right now as a narrative player with Warhammer 40,000, with Battletech, with historicals. I want to have some fun. I want to be entertained. I want us to have a memorable wargaming experience. That doesn't mean I'm not going to try and win, but I put kind of the unique or the funny or the interesting and intriguing as number one priority. X-Wing miniatures, completely different. I love Star Wars, but I'm not tied to the narrative or the canon, so I can go in there with some crazy lists and just be brutally ruthless. I am capable of doing both, although I think of myself as more of a gentleman player. But if I look back a couple of years ago, there was a time with Warhammer 40,000 where myself and a number of other individuals, we would be called competitive players. We would take certain lists. We would focus surely on winning. I do slight narrative on there. This is kind of post-Way of Sam Han, but the focus was winning. And what helped us the most, because you go through this stage, and this is true of every war game, even though it was primarily Warhammer 40,000 at the time, you go through this stage as a wargamer where you first learn the rules, then you learn how your army works and how the game works and how other armies work, and then you get to a point where your army is on autopilot, which means when it's your turn, you're not calculating, okay, just how far does this unit move and what's the synergy here, and if I shoot this unit into my opponent's unit, rule of 50, I'll reduce it down to this, and then I'll move up here. All those tactical kind of math hammer, theory hammer calculations, which are vital, which are important, you already know those. So now what this means is almost, it goes from the perspective of you standing over the gaming table looking at everything to now the perspective of standing off to the side. And what I mean by that is the ability to look and now focus on the mistakes your opponent makes and be able to see the mistakes that they make that they're not even aware of, to be able to see turn by turn opportunities and position your army to take advantage of those opportunities. I don't want to get all of Art of War here, but there's a lot of parallels to that. But you first have to go through these other phases of understanding in the game to even begin to get to that autopilot. And the first phase of that is just playing lots and lots and lots of games so you can internalize the rules and you can internalize how your army works with all the combos and math and dice and everything and powers and synergy. So how you do that is, this was the technique that we utilized. In the narrative, in the social contract of a war game, you and I are taking time out of our day-to-day life, family responsibilities, work, school, all that, whatever you got to do. And we're going to play a game. So we always finish the game out. I don't believe, and it gets me fired up, when people realize, well, you know what, I just lost the game. It's like turn 3, I lost, forget it, you win, and they walk away. Like, no, the game could turn around. No, you never know. But even if you know 100%, there have been games where I've played, doesn't matter why, I'm not going to win. But I fight to the bitter end simply because, well, that's what Korn does, right? Going to fight to the bitter end, put you to the bolt, pistol, and chainsword. But second to that, we made a contract. We're here to play a game. So you can have some fun beating on me. I'm still going to just come at you. I'm going to do my best, but let's finish it out. So that said, though, when you're training for competitive play, you don't have time to finish the game out. What I mean by that is you kind of know, you play a game, and halfway through the game, so if the game is 6 turns, halfway through the game at turn 3, you stop, you and your opponent, you and your training partner, and you say, okay, if this game continued out, who would most likely win? And then you reset, you play again. By turn 3, you pause, you look and say, okay, if this game played out, who would most likely win? What this means is if you can get one game in 4 hours, now you're getting like 3 or 4 games in the same amount of time. You are just literally front loading on playing game after game after game. What this means is you have to be brutally honest. You and your opponent, your training partner, your fellow tournament player. I mean, we would take over the Fritz cave. I'd have like 3 makeshift tables on there, and myself and friends, we'd all be down there playing. Just like, okay, look, we're going to prep for the tournament in 2 weeks. I'll see you on Sunday, and we're just going to play 40K all day. Turn 3, set it up. Turn 3, reset it. Turn 3, reset it. I mean, we would play 20 or 30 games in a day, and you learn really, really fast. And it's not to say we didn't have fun and cool stuff happens, but making that decision halfway through, if the game plays out, who's going to win? So just by doing that, you are increasing your learning curve or decreasing your learning curve, cutting down on the learning curve, because you're learning the rules, you're learning the synergy, you're getting to that higher tactical level of being able to see the deficiencies, the mistakes, the opportunities on the table, as opposed to playing it out to the bitter end. So definitely a training session. What this also teaches you really fast is to be aggressive. And I don't mean aggressive equaling being a jerk mode on, but meaning you're bold, you're decisive. You learn really fast how to utilize deployment models to give you an advantage before the start of the game even happens. You learn how to use overwhelming force. You learn how to make a tactical decision and carry it out. The worst thing you can do is start to deploy one way. So I deploy my units out, and again, this is kind of a 40K perspective. I deploy my units out, you deploy your units, and you go first for whatever reason. And now I decide, or maybe I go first and I look at your deployment and I say, I got to adjust my plans. This is something different. And now I spend, rather than turn 1 building massive momentum off my deployment, I spend it redeploying, shifting units using movement or abilities to get from one side to the other. I've wasted time. I've wasted that momentum. Like, no, turn 1, the bell, it's ringing. You got to come out fighting. You got to come out ready. You got to come out pumped. And learning to commit to that momentum and learning to be aggressive, again, in a good way, a committal way, that cultivates really fast, because in your mind, in this training scenario, you're like, turn 3, the game's over. I have to be in a win position. So I have to dominate the table. I have to have broken my opponent's army. I have to be in position to capture mission objectives, whatever they're going to be, all by turn 3. The only way we do that is if everything else is in play. You do that. You spend a couple of gaming sessions just doing that, then you're going to win tremendously. That's going to really propel you. And the mindset is the other important thing, because there's always egos involved. Everyone wants to win. You've got your toys. You want your toys to do well on the table. But when you enter this training session, when you come to the Fritz cave, it's like we're here to learn. We're here to make honest assessments, and that means if I play 4 games in 4 hours and I lost all 4 games, I'm not going to get all salty about it. I'm not going to start nerd raging about it. I'm going to have to look and say, well, why not? This is like a training session. This is like a dojo, the miniature dojo, playing it out from that perspective. Not from the perspective of like you'd get at the gaming club where, we play a 4 or 5 hour game, and if I lost, I'm not happy about it. No, like this is total training 101, and you want to get that feedback from, I was going to say opponent, but really your kind of other wargaming training partner. You approach it that way. Just wherever you are in wargaming right now. Here's the challenge. Try to set up 2 gaming sessions. It could just be with another buddy, could be with one person, could be the 4 of you, and you switch on and off, and dedicate the next 2, whatever your regular gaming sessions are, however long they are. Maybe you get together every Saturday. I used to do that long ago with 40K basement games, basement battle reports, a lot of fun. The next 2 times you meet, you're just going to try and play as many games as you can to turn 3 or the midpoint or after X number of turns, depending on the system, whether it's X-Wing or Battletech. And then you're going to pause and you're going to make an assessment and you're going to reset and you're going to play and you're going to pause and you're going to make a reassessment. You do that for your next 2 regular gaming sessions. And then the next time you get together, or if it's part of a bigger club, the next time you step out officially, I guarantee you're going to dominate. I guarantee there's going to be a notable shift of like, what the heck's going on? And that's just on playing games alone. That's before we even layer in YouTube and studying battle reports and analyzing things from that perspective. One could learn a lot from, just like with chess, studying certain games. One can learn a lot by studying certain games from certain players in the wargaming community.